Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another edition of the Gray Area here on the Black Men Unfiltered Network, simulcasting on the Spartak HQ Network. I'm Mr. Bennett, joined by my partner, as always,
This is Sparta!
the Ghost of Sparta, aka Peter, aka Panayotis. Yep, Sue, my brother, what is going on?
What is going on, man? How are you tonight?
Just trying to get some rest. Like I said, I had a very active yesterday physically, and it looks like I'm going to have another physical day tomorrow morning with all the snow that we've got. So I got to get the snow blower out. We got about 4 or 5 inches in my driveway, so I got to clear all that tomorrow morning. So looking just to get some rest tonight and tack it in the morning. I decided to, I had to do some shoveling last night, so I'll take care of it tomorrow. But other than that, feeling pretty good. But certainly, we appreciate you guys being with us tonight. Again, make sure when you come in, make sure you hit the like button. Certainly on both platforms. Make sure you go over to the Sparta HQ Network. Drop a like there. It's not going to cost you anything. Drop a like there, and certainly support both channels as we give different content on both platforms. So again, we appreciate the support that you give us. This is a collaboration between us, so we appreciate your support. Certainly, also consider dropping a Cash App or Super Chat to the Black Men Unfiltered Network. Certainly, we'd appreciate, certainly when you support us there as well. And any individual Cash Apps that you want to give to us personally, you'll see scrolling also at the bottom of the screen our individual Cash Apps. So, you can support us that way also. But today, certainly a show. Today is our Gray Area call-in show. All right. So again, every 4 episodes, we strive to have a call-in show where certainly our fellow, subscribers and followers, they can certainly call up and chop it up with us on anything that we've talked about prior. So again, in the last several episodes, we've talked about just war theory versus pacifism. Am I weird or just unique? What happens if World War III happens? Honoring culture without losing yourself. Freedom versus obligation. And the last one we did was on, we did two things, progressive ideals versus cultural values and different parenting styles. So if you have commentary from any of those shows that we've done over the past several weeks, you can certainly call and chop it up with us. Or if there's something else you want to talk about with us, you can certainly come up. But again, the rules of the show, first and foremost, you have to be on camera. Have to. We're not making any exceptions certainly on that. You must keep it respectful. Anybody who's coming with any drama, we're going to block you immediately. So again, we expect, we give respect. So we expect that kind of respect in return. But you're certainly more than free to join us tonight when I drop the link. Again, you certainly come up. You'll check you in the back and just make sure that everything's okay. But with that, certainly look forward to chop it up with you guys. But in the meantime, in the interim, as guys come up, I know Pete, we were talking prior to the show. There's some things you want to talk about in terms of things you've been watching and observing as of late. So if you want to kind of go into what's been on your mind leading up to the show, and we can certainly delve into that as people come up. Shout out to our guy Craig all the way from the UK. Oi, and thank you very much. I don't take it personally. And certainly my man Eric is in the back. Appreciate you being here tonight, and as always, Craig, good to see you as well. So, but go ahead.
So originally, I was texting you. We are trying to figure out what we're going to talk about tonight, and I was actually originally having a blockers right. I was having a brain fart because I usually wing a little bit on tonight's show because it's a open concept. Anybody can come on and talk to us. So I kind of try to keep it like more funnish, I want to say, or more educational. But I was having a brain fart today for some reason. Maybe because I'm just tired or just I was doing my vegan fast for communion this week. So my I haven't had enough protein, and today I just finally broke it after communion. And maybe I was having a little drainage from that. Who knows what it was? So I was laying on the couch or flipping through the channels, and this documentary I said you came up about 3% militia.
3% militia, yeah.
Yes. And I watched another one prior to that about PMPs, private military, PMPGs, private military groups. So I thought that would be a good topic because I have done some research on the 3%ers years before I even thought about doing any YouTube stuff. I'm talking about in my early 20s when they first came on the scenes. when they first came on the scenes, they were a very quiet group. They were in this. A lot of people think they are even today, but a lot of people think they are white percentage part of the neo Nazis and the KKK. No, that's actually false. I can say that you saw part of the clip. You know, you saw there were mixed people in that group.
It doesn't change my mind though. I was still
sorry.
I was still opine for that, but yeah, but go ahead though.
Yeah. So as I was thinking, like I think this is because when they first came out of the scene, they were civilians. You know, a lot of them were ex-military, ex-police forces. It's just guys who like to protect what they believe in, not non-violent group. Like getting together every so often, like a group meeting, if you want to call it that. You know, at the range, have a little range fun, and then call it a day. Nothing crazy. That grew and got to a point what it is now. If you remember in the news, there were in the news, you know, a lot of their members were doing a lot of illegal stuff at one point.
Right.
And they're trying to still clean up the bad scene. Is it still a good group? No, I don't consider them as a good group. I consider them as you know, something I would say far away from personally. But I do see what they're saying. Some of their things I do understand with their Second Amendment right and the freedom of speech. They don't want that be taken away, and I do understand that. And that is the fear we're living in these days, with everything that's going on lately with the politicians and everything. We're living in a strange and dangerous time. And can you highlight the last comment, please, for a second? So he's 100% right. The 3%ers are not a PMG private military group. They're not. Blackwater, for example, was a private military group, and they had the whole scandal too. So it doesn't matter if you're a contractor company or a militia group that somehow, some way, you have always those little snake in the ground that twists things around, and when they go up the ranks, they do whatever they fucking want and put a bad name on the company or the group. So I thought it'd be a good conversation to have, actually.
Right. And ladies and gentlemen, the link has been dropped in the chat, so you can certainly, anybody who wants to come up and certainly join the conversation, you can certainly do that. The link has been dropped. Again, we got to see you and make sure everything's good before you come up. But certainly if you want to be part of it, by all means, you can do so. But yeah, I mean, I saw the clip, and I've seen other clips, or other groups or presentations certainly over time. In my personal opinion, I don't see much difference as far as what's really driving a lot of the conversation. And again, we can disagree on that. I think it still boils down to race by and large. You could even see it in their patching. For a lot of these folks, the Civil War never ended. It just paused for a while. And you have a lot of folks. I mean, I remember I used to take trips up to Canada and in upstate New York and Canada, and I would drive through parts of New York. And I'm thinking, up prior to that, like New York was just like New York City and Suffolk County and, Long Island and things of that nature. But when you go up into upstate New York, it's a very different world up there. And I remember seeing Confederate flags then. I'm like, wait a minute, unless you came from, did you move up from the South, something like that? It's like, why are you spotting or sporting a Confederate flag in New York? The last I checked, that New York wasn't part of the Confederacy. So I was seeing things that was just kind of, puzzling to me when I was going to different parts of New York and other, again, quote unquote, northern states. And I'm still seeing this Confederate pride being shown. And in the documentary clip that you sent me, again, there was like half the flag was Confederate and the other half was, and even the black guy that was in there. And again, all these groups have had black supporters. You had black people fighting for the Confederacy in the Civil War. So I mean, it doesn't. So if you show me one guy in there, that's not up to me a proof text that the group doesn't have malicious intent towards masses of people. I mean, they may, because the one thing I've always experienced with in my life is that for some people, you become invisible after a while, or colorless. And when you talk about the idea of, you said you're colorblind, and we have a again respectful difference in perspective on that.
Yeah.
But the reason why I refuse to accept that is because a lot of times to people you become invisible in terms of race, but that does not mean that they don't have general biases. I won't say it's racist, but certain biases or stereotypes about people that I've had the unfortunate pleasure still to hear. And then I've heard, like, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. They'll be like, oh, I don't mean you, Paul, but you said this about a general, you're making these general comments about people, or I've heard, I can't tell you how many times I've been told in my life, well, why can't more people be like you?
Mm-hmm.
I said, there's a lot of people like me. You just need to get out more and get around more people so you can see more people like me. No, but you mean like you. It's like, again, I'm just like, what do you mean? Because that's all I hang out with. I only know people like that. So again, I don't know what the thrust of your alleged compliment was. So just because oftentimes you see these members who assimilate into the group, and as long as they are 10 toes down with the ideology of the group, they'll sort of let them in. It doesn't mean that the general policies or the general thrust of the organization isn't that. In fact, you had in that same clip, you had the guy, he talked about how he's had several members who've left, or he had to let go of certain members because they did do some things, some bigoted things. And then he comes back and says, oh, well, they're not part of the organization. They're not there. So, I mean, you had these people in your midst. So whether or not it was either organizational policy or you had people in your group who had these feelings towards other people, nevertheless, they were there. And these groups were constantly splintering off into other groups. And there's quite a number
exactly what I'm talking about from originally.
Yeah,
like
right.
when they first came out, when they first formed the original 3%ers, they weren't about color, race, West versus South, none of that. They were just guys who were military, retired military, retired police force, who like getting together once in a blue moon, going to a range and practicing, their target practice and call it a day. That's what it was back in the day. And it wasn't like years ago when I was in my early 20s. I couldn't remember. I mentioned multiple times I wanted to join the military more than anything in the world. That was my dream. And because of knee injuries and my life at the time, I couldn't do it. So the recruiter goes, "Why don't you join a militia?" He goes to me. I didn't hear about it in militia. This is before 3%ers it was on my radar, even if they existed. I'm talking about, this is a 5-year gap now. We're talking about when I learned about militia and when I learned about the 3%ers. And I go, what's a militia? He sends me some information. He goes, this is actually a very, very good group to join. Civilians grow it. They train military style, everything military, but you're not actually military. You can't get a minigun and keep it in your back in your closet and take it out when you need to. Like a militia group is technically, if you really want to get technical, is when shit hits the fucking fan and the military can't get there. That's where they step in to protect their neighborhoods, their land, their everything. They follow the same rules as military. And I use that very slightly air quotes because we know now they don't follow the same rules anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So I found interesting. You had to go through a whole application process. Why do you want to join this? You had to go through an interview process. They wanted to do a thorough background check, every little thing. They even do a credit check because they feel if your credit is too low, you have more chances of breaking some type of law to get yourself out of that credit because you're desperate. So, okay, flirted the idea, but never did it. Spoke to a few guys, very respectful guys, and like I met a retired corporal. Funny thing, his name is the same as yours, Paul. His name was Bennett too. Maybe you guys related. African bull guy like yourself too. So, and he was cool. He goes, listen, we're not here to break laws. If you cannot follow the actual laws, because I'm a retired Army Ranger, I believe he was at the time. Something with the military. I can't remember what exactly.
Right.
And he got into police force. He came out of that. And I'm going to talk to Proud Bros in a few minutes about that. I want to touch base on that too. So he said, listen, we are law-abiding citizens. Our firearms are registered. We go to the gun ranges. We go through backgrounds. We don't allow any, drugs. We don't allow any criminals, nothing like that. We're not talking about like minor things like you got arrested because you didn't pay for your speeding ticket and you something like that. We're talking about like, DVs or bar fights. We're talking about real crimes we're talking about now. I go, okay, my life wasn't allowing me to do that. Moved on. A few years later, the 3%ers came in my radar. And at the time, interesting group, but not for me. Then later on, all these scandals coming up. Now they're under I believe it was the FBI at the time. They're under their radar. Local police was looking into them. I'm like, oh, this is not a cool group. Fast forward 2 more years, and this is where the Proud Boys come in my radar. This guy I worked with, he joined the Proud Boys. I'm like, at the time, I didn't know who the hell the Proud Boys were, to be honest with you. And I was still pretty cool with my cousin at the time. And if anybody knew, ask your cousin who's in law enforcement, right? So I asked my cousin who was a detective, I went, Nick, do you know who the Proud Boys are? He goes, yeah. I'm like, I don't like the sound of that. He goes yeah, there's something you don't want. He's pretty much like a gang. He goes to me. The only thing that's different about a gang and the Proud Boys believe in the old school. Like the woman stays in the kitchen, stays home, raise her kids. Nothing more than that. She steps out of line, you backslap her. Like, oh, that's not something I want to be in power bar. Like, no, I never thought about joining them, but I knew somebody who did join that. And knowing him, yeah, that sounds his cup of tea, actually. And I didn't even think of it. And me and him had an argument, dude, that's technically a gang you're joining. You're like, no, we're not a gang. We're good people. I'm like, no, I don't think so. If my cousin, who's a detective, has you guys on the radar, you're not doing something right. It could have been a really cool group when they first joined. It's first great, like most groups. First time they joined, Hell Angels, great example. When Hell Angels was the first thing, there were guys that wanted to just ride bikes, have a brotherhood, and just enjoy riding the bikes. They missed the brotherhood. And over the years, all this corruption have started coming in. Drug trafficking, sex trafficking, all this shit came up. And now they are one of the number one MCs out there. That's something you want to be a part of. Right. So it made me start thinking, how many groups are there out there like this? There are more than we think.
Yeah, for sure. In fact, I even have a little stat here. Before we get started, we have our first guest up. We have our guy all the way from the UK. No, I'm not the president on this. So you don't have to give me the presidential salute here. Save that for the Spartan.
Well, you like the pain. It's part of the show, so it's quite funny.
Gotcha.
You did have a good point, Gary.
So again, we got a guy, Craig. How you doing, sir?
Hey, I'm good.
Good. Okay. Hopefully you feel better. So you got your sweater. I hope you got some tea, some Earl Grey that you're sipping on there.
Non-PG tips.
Gotcha. But I wanted to show. I found share my screen here. So I kind of found this. It might be a little bit dated at this point, but this was something that I picked up. So again, this is as of October 2020. So there's groups that they monitor a lot of activity from a lot of these paramilitary and militia groups. So you see the color, the color guide. So again, some of the the groups where target activities, and again, it's pretty much throughout the country. There's a lot certainly on the East Coast. And like I said, when I was going through New York and whatnot, I saw, a lot of signage, a lot of, pickup trucks with the Confederate flags on them, and so but you have these groups kind of set up and spread out throughout the country, and I mean, but they all kind of share, I guess, similar philosophy in that they believe that their cause is righteous. And what was also interesting about the documentary piece that you sent me was there was a lot of God language wrapped up in their belief system, that they think that they're on the side of right. And they mentioned Christian a lot. And this one guy, he was comparing them to Muslims, that the Muslims are the radical ones, and that they, as Christians, as they call themselves, that they were the good guys. And I think a lot of those guys believe that. But again, you certainly had some elements that were part of the group that were, had other motivations. You had one guy said the reason he joined the 3%ers was because when Obama got elected. So it's like, why him getting elected would make a difference if you're all about the Constitution, the laws, and whatnot.
It's funny you said that because I sent you another documentary a week ago, I think, was it?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't get a chance to, but that was like a Netflix. That was like a long.
That was long. But part of that one I found very interesting, and this goes into our conversation today. I know you didn't watch it. They were mostly talking about the thing that happened in the Capitol, the invasion, I guess you want to call it, whatever you want to call it, the takeover of the Capitol. Yeah, most of those groups were not all of it, most of those people, but like I won't say about I think 75% of people were there. There were probably two groups: 3%ers and Proud Boys. Yeah.
And to Anton's point again, I'm talking about the specifically the clip that Pete sent me from Vice. These were definitely 3%ers, and you had one of the guys that they interviewed. He talked about why he joined. And he said the reason why he joined was because of Obama's election, to your earlier point about a lot of these groups getting established after Obama got elected. But then also some of those same guys, again, they used a lot of Christian nationalist language. Correct. When being in. So it's the same group. I mean, basically, Vice went in. Vice is always doing these documentaries and things like that. So they basically spent like a few days, I guess, on a week. It was like a weekend training mission or something like that, and they were interviewing just various members of the same group and talking about again what their motivations were. So some were like, because of Obama. Some was, they think that this is a religious war that they're fighting. Some are strict constitutionalists. So again, it's like you have various motivations as to why people are motivated to join these organizations. And so, but it's all part, and it could be the reason why, because towards the end of the documentary, the guy was saying that in his local chapter, he's had several split offs because there have been like disagreements with either where the direction of their organization is going, or like I said, guys who acted, from the leader guy, he came off, he had a wife who might have been Asian or Latino or something like that. And she was saying, oh, he's not racist, he loves everybody and things of that nature. But then he had members in his group that were doing things that were racist. And so he had to kind of kick those people out. And so, so again, I mean, there's always these groups, they always splinter, and you see, the result of like a lot of these groups might have started and they've grown into, different groups. They all have different agendas, but I do think that there is at the center of the agenda, I do think that it is race. At the end of the day, that is a primary. It may not be the only or sole, but I do think it is a primary motivator of a lot of these groups. Again, my opinion, regardless of the rhetoric and regardless of the members. Like I said, they'll show the black guy in there and say, hey, they're not racist. Oh, yeah, and he even said, even though they have a Confederate flag in there, hey, that's an American flag. Hey, it's not a big deal. It's just a flag, So you'll always find supporters of policies and whatnot, even though it may not be, even though what we're seeing may be different from how they're interpreting it.
So, a couple things. His wife was Asian. He mentioned that at one point in the documentary. So cool. He, at his chapter, he was a leader. maybe his chapter was not racist. They were trying to be law-abiding citizens and following the rules and everything. Okay, but it doesn't mean the whole group in general are the same thing.
Mhm.
Like you have different chapters everywhere. So that chapter might be law-abiding citizens, but the chapter in a couple states over might be breaking every goddamn law in the book possible.
Mhm.
And
Right.
they're trying to take out everybody who doesn't agree with them.
Mhm.
All right. So then, second, you have the flag, like you mentioned. Yeah, he said it's just a cloth. What's a big deal? And they use a part of it. And his theory was like, it's not like what the flag stands for, where we came from, the history of it. We have to remember where we came from. And I mentioned that a while back, if you remember a couple of years ago, when we were talking about taking down the statue. And I was also disagree with it, if you remember, because I believe in history. And if you don't see, the symbol of history reminds you where you came from. I know it's a dark side of history. It's not a good part of history. But if you don't keep it up to remember where you came from, we are willing to make the same mistakes over and over and over.
And I vehemently disagree with that, because all of those statues that you're talking about, they were put up well after the Civil War. All of those are put up in the 20th century, not post-Civil War monuments. They were put up several decades after that. So again, the idea of, well, this is preserving history of basically an insurrectionist country. Basically, these folks seceded from the Union, and there was a war that was fought to reunify the Union. They lost. So again, the question of why do we want to preserve that, or why do people get upset if you were on the side of wrong for your participation in the Confederacy? Why would you want to preserve that, or why are you so proud of that? And people always want to put a spin. It was about rights. It was about Constitution or whatnot. By and large, it was about slavery. But everyone's trying to rewrite the record and say it was about something else. And I'm just saying that, you can't split that as much as you want to kind of nuance it. And the reason why the guy basically said it, the guy in his chapter, he said he split off like 10 times from his chapter. Because again, I think regardless of, he might have the most ideal of names of aims, and you saw him in there having dinner with his kids, praying at the table, and all this kind of stuff, and nice family drama. A lot of those guys, they're not motivated by those intentions.
You see, that member, that leader, might be one of the few exceptions. But how many times do we see? Great example. I mean, a lot of people might not like what I'm going to say right now, but the whole KKK members, they were a great example who first started this stuff. They were not good people. Even they were Christians, they say. Last time I checked, a Christian doesn't mean, go after another race. A Christian accepts whoever you are, loving, caring, whatever. Not like they did it. Like I said, this guy who runs that group, maybe not like that. Doesn't mean the other groups are not like that. Might be one of the rare few groups like, yeah, he's a cool person. He doesn't care about race, background, none of that. Obviously, you see his family, you see, a few people, but it doesn't mean every single group is like that.
But again, I guess what I'm trying to get you to debate, and Craig, certainly we could bring you in.
I actually am on your side of this one.
What's that?
I'm agreeing with you this one.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, even with those things there, like I said, the family and the wife and all those things, that does not mean that he does not have racist intent. I mean, again, you can take a look at me. I'm not fully African here. So again, the idea here is that, people oftentimes compartmentalize. Like I said, you can look at me as a person and be like, oh, well, he's just this or that or whatever. But again, have other intent or beliefs or attitudes about other people. So I don't care if he necessarily has the wife, but it's
that's what I'm saying to you. I'm saying the same thing, but in different words. I'm agreeing with what you're saying. I'm saying, like, yes, he might have some hidden agendas. Is that fair to say that?
Maybe, yeah. That and or like I said, or he wasn't necessarily so insistent on, or in fact, and as far as the guys leaving, maybe it might have been because he was trying to say, hey, we're not a bigoted organization or whatnot. We respect everybody and whatnot. And guys were like, look, I don't roll with that. I think I have a way that doesn't align with yours, and that's why the guys left. I don't know, but certainly just from the interview and from the documentary, those guys were there.
Let's, for argument's sake, the reason they left was disagreement of the way the group was run. They said, "Oh, we don't want this." The one guy, remember who the black guy, who was in there. He was police force.
Mm-hmm.
He might have said, "Listen, I don't agree with him being here. He doesn't fit our views, blah blah blah, whatever." He goes, "Listen, it doesn't matter if you agree or not. He's still part of this group. I don't care color, skin, or whatever." That could have been a good reason. It could have been the other reasons. Who knows what the reason was? But let's say, for argument's sake, it was a conversation. That was the reason. I can, you can respect that a little bit. I don't have to respect the group. You can respect. Listen, kick them out because they were being racist. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that's the reason. I don't know, but I am agreeing with you. He might have some hidden agendas behind him. He doesn't say to anybody. Definitely not on camera. He's not going to criminalize himself because he is a leader of a group. At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Like
Greg, if you want to get in on this combo, again, floor is yours. Anything that you want to talk about, either from a prior conversation, what's on your mind, or if you want to chime in on this one. I don't know what the state of things in the UK. Do you have militias or radical groups in the UK that are armed forces? What's that?
We've got loads of radical groups in the UK. We just had a couple of guys, middle of this week, just had a couple of friends, have been a long time friends, a couple of audios, and they just had a massive punch up on live stream. Literally, they had a punch up on live stream. And basically, my country's gone to crap. But you know my opinion on my own country anyway. Both of you do.
Yeah, you trying to get up out of there sometime soon. Yeah, I heard.
Pete, you all right?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah. No, it's we just had notification from a lady called Candid Lubna. Candid with Lubna, she's a YouTuber, Pakistani woman, and she's basically trying to speak out towards what's going on with the UK and stuff like that. Apparently, the Muslim group are trying to create a political group themselves so they can become MPs and that sort of thing to try and take over the UK. So, I think it's all wrong. It's America thinks, a lot of Americans think that the America's really bad work. You haven't got a clue what's going on over here. What you got over there to here, that's a piece of cake compared to over here. It's absolute dive. You don't want to visit it. But yeah, you've got knife crime. We've got knife crime. We've got phones being stolen on a daily basis. We've got a guy walking down the street being arrested for walking a dog, and a woman. Yeah, a woman wants to walk for a protest, just walk round to her house, just around the corner, instead of going around the long way, which is the usual route she usually takes to walk to her house, and she gets arrested. She's just walking a dog home.
Right.
It's just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on the ground, but I would say this about UK. One thing that I remember probably as a teenager when I started watching, I used to watch a lot of C-SPAN. I don't know why. I just was always interested in political discourse and whatnot. One of the things that C-SPAN would always show was parliamentary meetings. And I always appreciated that because here you have what the PM has to stand up in front of all those constituencies and all those parties and debate their policy on the floor. It was like open, like here, everything's done in like backward rooms and other meetings and whatnot, and stuff gets dropped on the floor. You don't know what goes into it. And you seldom hear like the president in that case having to defend it. And I'm not talking about any president in particular. But I always liked that kind of open system where you had to stay there and take open fire from your people who supported you, people who were your adversaries, and make a case. So you had to really be able to think on your feet because you didn't know what questions were coming at you. So I always thought that was a very good way for the public to see how things are going, what the thought processes are, how your leaders are really thinking about things. And then I would hope that would have led to a more informed public when you do go to vote for people, regardless of, if you're Labor Party or whatever party you belong to, that, you kind of see these guys in action. Here, it's hard to kind of see some of that that really goes on. So I was always an admirer of the British parliamentary system because of that. And again, we, on the outside being able to see it, and you just realize that you just couldn't be anybody. You had to definitely be able to think on your feet and come back with answers to questions. Otherwise, you can get embarrassed in front of the nation that was watching you.
See, one thing Greg hit that he hit it correctly is like a lot of like people don't understand, like a lot of Muslim groups are trying to become more a politician group. Great example, when the Taliban first got created, they were a terrorist group. Like we all know what happened. Now they're not even a terrorist group; they're actually a politician group. Like even several presidents had actually meetings with them, trying to find peace because they don't want to start stir up the hornet's nest because they know that's not a good situation to be in. Now they're not as they're still a terrorist group, but they're also a politician group too. Don't know how that happened. That blows my mind still. Like,
well, I honestly, it's interesting. I have no problem with any group that wants to work within a governing system to gain access or influence or policy. Because to me, that's still playing by the rules. If you can get a plurality of people together of similar mindset or whatnot, and go in and do like what happened in Germany back in the day, up until a certain point, I didn't have a problem with that because again, they built a party, they lobbied, they raised funds, they brought members in. You have elections, people vote, and if people say no, we want them. I got no beef. Like even in our country, I mean, people voted. And people chose what they chose. I don't have a problem with that. As long as you're operating within the rules of what that political system allows to happen. So if it gets to a point where if there's a Muslim majority or whatever majority that you want, if that's going to be decided by the voters and the voters, they make their voices heard and that's the outcome of the election, then so be it. You got some countries where, I mean, here we have a two-party system for the most part. I mean, yes, you have independence, but they don't really have any political sway. But you got countries like, Canada and these other, you got 4, 5, 6 parties. You can literally win an election with like 20% of the vote. But that, to me, I don't have an issue with that. If you are upset about it, then again, work through the process in order to get your point of view, heard or build enough of a votership or whatnot to turn it. But going back to these malicious groups, when you're talking about training with the guns and like as if they're preparing for World War III or the Second Civil War, yeah, that worries me. And so that's the thing. But taking political action, that is as American as it gets. And if these guys want to raise funds to either support candidates or support their own people to run for office and to affect change, then I don't have a problem with that. But I think where a lot of this stuff is coming from is they don't think they can win that way. And so this idea of training these militias and armies and, to some they may think that they're there to protect. But when does protection become tyranny? And when that becomes intimidation? When you go into vote and you see these guys with M16s there. I mean, what is that supposed to represent? So again, I think that is that is where, again, where the motive is with all this stuff is really is really what's troubling to me. I saw a guy, Anton. He's been very active in the chat. Anton, again, the chat has been the link has been dropped certainly in the chat. If you have time, if you want to come up and share your perspective, you're more than free to do so. But I just want to acknowledge you because I know you've been dropping some gems in the chat, so I appreciate.
I want to bring this up really fast. So it is one group is MPA actually called the Pennsylvania State Guard. They're a militia group, completely militia. They were founded in 1777. And they were officially, they were founded in 1774. They were officially put into a official in 1977, and they were recognized by the government of by the state of Pennsylvania in 1903 as a backup force. According to the article I'm reading here. Never heard of them personally, but that's a whole different story. They've been very active of doing, stuff like food drives, stuff like that. Most of the members are members of the National Guard or in the police force, active members only. These guys accept. You cannot be like, oh, I can't, like me. I never did any military. I can go like, hey, can I join? Can I get the application? And like, no, hit the road, kid. And like, you have to be an active member of police or military. Some say they prefer National Guard because you can do their trainings and stuff like that with them. But they were taking, people who are at least active, to say in the article. So further down, they said they also some of them have some have history of being in other wars. For example, a lot of them have been because they were in active military. Some of them fought in World War II, Korea, and so on. But that to me, that's a good example. I think if you're going to do something like that. Oh, speaking of the devil, Madro, this is a topic for you to jump in, Brian.
Yeah, we appreciate. Yeah, I'm going to drop the link. I'm going to drop the link again in the chat. So again, anybody who wants to join the conversation and be a part of it, the link is going in the chat. You can certainly hop on board and be a part, Mandrell. We already know who you are. So again, you get an open invite anytime. So feel free if you have time to come up.
I'm actually going to drop it on my end too, so he can get it. I think he's on my end. Let me just drop it on my side too.
Yeah,
there we go. So if you do a militia just like this one I'm reading, you have to be an active member of the military or in police force, active, not like retired. Yeah, I don't have a problem with that one either. I don't think you would have a problem with that either, Paul, to be honest with you, because you're just you just having a backup force just in case shit hits a fan.
Sure. Sure.
To me, that makes sense, to be honest with you, if you can do a militia.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. I do want to share another clip. Again, this might be a little bit dated, but this is in terms of talk about states and support for such organizations. This is a map, again, of states where there's either laws for or against this sort of these groups. So again, in gray, they have no laws against these groups assembling and training and whatnot. But if you go to some other states like Florida, which is surprising that some of these states are in the South, Georgia, Florida, that they have laws against not only the forming of these militias as well as the training. So again, in the video where we saw that training that was going on, that's supposed to be illegal as well. But some of these guys, they might be trying to do it underground. So you would talk about law-abiding citizen or what have you, but obviously, they're not going to allow, or they're going to claim Second Amendment when it talks about that's like their birthright is the Second Amendment, and no state law is going to stop these guys from assembling. But you see, certainly on the East Coast, there's a lot of states that kind of go against it, but that doesn't mean that training isn't going on, for these particular groups. So I just wanted to kind of share that piece. But yeah, I mean, they like I said, some of the stuff it gets to there's definitely it gets a little bit frightening. And again, what we saw a few years ago on January 6th, again, people want to rebrand it or redescribe it. It wasn't what it was. Don't believe your lying ears or your lying eyes about what that was and the groups that were represented there, and support for those groups to be there. All those are things that we can't necessarily get around, but it's so this is something that people are asking, like, where is this going? And if things continue to go in a particular direction in this country, these groups that might have started out as Anton said earlier, they might have started as drinking clubs or just places just to hang out, but they became something more sinister down the line. Then when does it end?
And some of them also started as a gun club. There are a bunch of gun clubs out there. There's just guys getting to a range, shooting guns. Nothing crazy with that. But once you start adding military stuff into it, and police force, and making a group, now you're talking about organizations, gangs, if you want to call it like that. And that's where the gray area comes in for them, not us, for them. Because some of them have really good intentions, like, I just want to protect my land, my home, all this stuff. And then the other ones are like, no, let's fuck shit up. And that's where they spin off, and now the spinoff after spinoff after spinoff, and that's how a lot of these groups get a bad name. You might have one good group versus the other 20 who are actually doing bad shit out there, and that's not right either. Like I said, like the other article, the other documentary I watched during the takeover of the Capitol, 75% of the groups who were involved, and this is what annoys me with that too, and it says right in the document, most of them already, when they were there, before they even marched down there, they were already in military gear, bulletproof vests, firearms, everything. They knew what they're there for. They knew what they were doing. So 75% was Proud Boys and 3%ers. So you can tell me you guys did not organize this and going in there for that reason, and that's some bullshit if you did.
Yeah There was Eric, I know he asked early in the chat about I guess the Bundy family. I think it was like I may get the name right. It wasn't I think it was, I don't know if it was Ted Bundy, but it was basically him and his family, that they were basically voted off of some federal lands, and I guess they were being forced off, but they had this standoff against federal troops. And again, basically the federal troops, I guess they capitulated and went away from it. But it was definitely something that, got a lot of people's attention. It's like, look, if they can be bold enough to do this, then what's next in terms of their ability to intimidate law enforcement? So this is one of the standoffs. So you got so these are federal lands. They had these federal agents on it. They were coming in to have these people removed from the property, and people said, no, we're not going. A lot of those guys are armed. And certainly for the officers on the other side, it's like, they're asking themselves a question. It's like, do I want to go to battle over this? Or do I really want to go home? And that's, to me, that's the thing also, that, for local law enforcement, their motivations, their training and whatnot is part of either trying to de-escalate a situation. I don't think a lot of those guys are ready for a militia or wartime type of situation. But a lot of these guys on the other side, they are. And so, when are I guess law enforcement and authorities, when they're going to take this kind of stuff seriously? But these guys, the guys on the other side with the flags, they've had the training that we saw in the video. I don't think these cops on a regular basis, are they going to those ranges and whatnot and having that kind of, are they ready for that?
So what I do know, they do have to qualify for their firearms. I'm not sure how often they have to do this. I can't because every count is different. Let's say for argument's sake, once a year, for argument's sake, okay? They have to get qualified it's like a PT test almost. They have to run. They have to do so many push-ups and you see some of these cops, bro. You see something. There are some that are out of shape. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, like I said, I don't think most police officers or local law enforcement is actually ready for this kind of engagement.
Absolutely not.
I mean, SWAT teams maybe, But even SWAT teams, that's more so for like city type of situations or whatnot. But I don't know if they were ready for something like this. And again, and what do you do in the what do you do when that situation happens? And for a lot of these guys, it's like, look, I want to go home.
Yeah,
but
so
these
even
guys
if
are like
you're-
these guys are like true believers, right? I mean, they want, like someone said in the video, they're willing to die for some of these beliefs.
So, like I was saying, like they have to get gun qualified, but even these cops, and like they have an oath they have to follow. But it is an oath that's, are you going to put the oath first or go home at the end of the night? That is the question when you face when you're looking down range and you guys see 100 other guys that have firearms more powerful than yours. Some of these guys have more power than the police force. I remember playing a video here. This is an idiot, this woman, saying, "Oh, you only allow you should only be allowed to own whatever firepower the police force. That means you're actually arming the criminals with more power. That makes no sense. This is why we have restrictions, what we can own, what we cannot own, like fully automatics, for example. Some states allow police officers to own fully automatic weapons. Not in their private life. I'm talking about stations.
Right, official weapon.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. So, if you're saying as civilians we should be allowed to own that, no. I do believe some things are way too powerful for civilians to own. I'm okay if you go to a range and rent it. And I'll be clear out there. I'm a big fan of Second Amendment right. Paul knows how I feel about that. Like I think everybody should go through a gun training course. I think everybody should shoot at least one firearm in their lifetime. I'm a bigger fan of it. But I don't agree having miniguns out there. Anybody can buy a minigun. And then, when shit hits a fucking fan, the police force cannot defend themselves. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly they, but to me, it's less of the, I guess, of the weapons that are there. It's the mindset. Like a guy again, Ace D-Man 7, they don't follow any else besides the just us system. I mean, it's like I said, we saw that. Remember those kids who got deleted in Texas in the school a couple years back, Uvalde, Texas, right?
Okay,
Yeah, the live shoot. I mean, these cops, wouldn't go in because I guess they were either concerned about, they wanted to say, the safety of the kids or whatever. But here you got this guy just clipping people off, and those cops didn't go in, and the chief got fired and all that kind of stuff. Again, I think the mindset of most police officers not to deal with this kind of level threat. And it has been identified as a threat. I mean, unfortunately, you had the previous CIA director was in, and he said the biggest threat to America is not some foreign terrorist group. It's these militia groups that are in the United States.
I agree 100%.
And that whole record got basically deleted and blocked out. That certain people did not want to hear. In fact, I remember when Charlie Kirk got deleted, and you had the governor of Utah got up there and basically said he prayed that it was a foreigner, or that he prayed that it was a someone of a different ethnicity, that not someone from the state of Utah. In other words, he was saying he prayed he wasn't somebody who looked like him. I mean, what a callous thing to say in light of that, which was a horrible incident. I mean, I saw the raw footage of it. I mean, nobody should go through that. But again, his thing was he was so concerned that it wasn't the typical waspy type of person that he just assumed that it had to be some sort of foreign national or somebody else. And I'm just saying that,
that bothered me with that whole situation, including with David. I love David he's like my brother. But that's something we argued about off camera. He goes, well, he wasn't this good guy, but all this shit came out after he was deleted, not before. And now all people were talking shit when after he came defend himself because he's not with us anymore. And people were saying, "Oh, his wife is all this stuff." They were so. This whole incident was tragic. Number one, what happened to him, and two, people were talking so much shit about the guy getting deleted. That was kind of fucked up, in my opinion. It doesn't matter you agree or disagree. I'm a big believer. You know, if he passed, let his soul rest and don't talk shit about the dead. But everybody did the opposite of that, and I was ashamed, to be honest with you, being a human being, and people were talking shit like that. I was ashamed, to be honest. It doesn't matter you agree with his theories or not. He was still a man. He still had kids. He still was a person. I think all three of us are going to agree that was
no question about it. Nah, I mean, there's no especially that happened in front of his family. I mean, just horrible. I mean, horrific.
Charlie Cohen was actually a decent guy. I actually support what a lot of the stuff he says. Yeah, I don't know the guy personally. Never actually spoken to him. Never been on his live streams, but from what I've heard and from what I've seen, he's actually a brilliant guy, and all he wants is the best for the US. That's all he wanted. You know what I mean?
I agree with Greg. A lot of things he said, I agree. And one thing it kind of like caught me off guard. I might be a little biased in this comment, so I do apologize. So he said, you know, a couple comments about orthodoxy, you know, what I am. He praised it. And that to me, okay. But he said it's not my type, you know, I couldn't do that personally, but I praise whoever does that. So I actually liked it when I heard that from somebody who's outside of the orthodoxy, understand where we, you know, how we do things. But I thought he was good. I thought from what all the videos I saw, everything he talked about, I somewhat agreed, to be honest. Not every single thing I'm going to agree. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is.
Yep, let's bring him up. Okay, so the man, the myth, the legend. We got our guy Mandrell in the back. How you doing, sir?
Hey, can you guys hear me?
100%, loud and clear. What's good?
Okay, gotcha. I gotta
show your face, man. Show your hat, man.
I know I gotta hook up my camera and stuff like that. That'll take a minute. Yeah, it's been disconnected. I had to disassemble and reassemble some stuff, and
gotcha.
You know, that's what it is.
You need more USB ports.
But here you guys, you're talking about Charlie Kirk. I mean,
yeah. But we're talking. I guess we're all over the map tonight. So again, we've been talking about, I guess militia groups, you know, 3%ers and the Bundys, just different groups throughout the country. You know what their, what their intentions are, and just my point was again is the local police and whatnot ready for encounters with these groups, because these guys, they do have a very, certainly coming from military backgrounds, and they have an ardent belief in whatever it is that they believe in. And is our, National Guard or local law enforcement agencies, are they ready to handle such groups should there be an encounter like with the Bundy standoff a few years ago in Oregon? So that's kind of where the conversation is now, but you're free to talk about anything that you want, because again, there were a few shows ago you were trying to get on the show and whatnot. We only do a call-in show once a month. So anything that you want to visit from back in the, early conversations and whatnot, the floor is yours if you want to, spin on anything you want to.
Yeah. Well, first I'll stick to some of the things that you guys are talking about tonight. You know what I mean? Because it's relevant. You guys are bringing it up, and it's good conversation. The militia groups, well, first of all, are the cops and our local law enforcement ready for an encounter like that? The answer is no. Absolutely not, unequivocally. And then I think you brought it, some of these guys in the National Guard and whatnot. Yeah, some of them are in the National Guard, but if you're in the National Guard, you're still not ready for it. You're not. You go home. You do 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year, right?
Yeah. These are the Bundys, by the way. Eric was asking earlier who the Bundy. So this is the Bundy clan. There's that Oregon standoff a few years ago. So I just wanted to show that. But go ahead, Mandra.
Right. They do 1 week in a month, 2 weeks a year. No, you're not ready. It was our job 24/7. And there are things that catch you off guard still. As fast as we were learning about warfare and the enemy, because the enemy evolves as well. Well, a good one does. You know, they learn. Like there's sometimes where you're a good example. If you guys want a movie, is what you call that? The one about the Benghazi incident.
Oh, 13 hours.
13 hours. Good example. Very good example. That's a very accurate movie, by the way, as far as how combat happens. You know, if you're in one location and the enemy is attacking you in waves, that's a good example. And also, how they change their tactics. Like it's amazing when you're actually in there in the situation, in those situations. Like you see combat. Some of them, every time they attack you, sometimes the direction they hit you from will change, or their tactics will change. You know what I mean? Something about the way they come after you will change. And our local law enforcement, no, most of them are going to go home because most of these guys are family men. They want to do their jobs and go home. Most of them. And now this culture with police culture, they clearly don't know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Look at how they handle things. They shoot too many too many people perish by their hands unintentionally, or as someone that they should not have wounded in that matter or taken out. You know what I'm saying? Too many incidents like that. There's far too many of them for me to say. And plus, I've actually, you know, over the years, you know, I've been working on things, you know, on my own in the background and everything like that. I actually teach marksmanship to different law enforcement agencies and precincts, right? Some of them are 3-letter agencies. A lot of them are law enforcement, both local and out of state. Number one, I've never been outshot by a cop, like not even close. Mm-hmm. They're not even close. I'm in a whole nother universe than these guys. I'm in 616 and they're in like 1.
Yeah, but you're in the elite of the military. So is that even a fair comparison?
Yes, because it comes down to repetitions, just like lifting weights.
It is because, like I said,
it comes down to repetitions, just like lifting weights, dude. Like the more classes you take, the more drills you learn how to do. Like the Mozambique drill, simple drill, not easy to execute.
But again, less than 1% of the population benches 405. You're in the 405 club.
Hang on, boy. That's not fair because, like, I'll tell right now, Manjaro. Let me ask you a question because I don't remember. How often do you guys get qualified for your firearms when you have to shoot?
I'm not law enforcement myself.
No, I mean in military. Did you have to qualify once a year?
Yeah, you do. Well, as a Green Beret, you do it like once a month. You go to the range, even if you're deployed. You know what I'm saying? There are times where you go to but unless you're like one of my deployments, I was at this place in Afghanistan, and I hesitate to say it here publicly, but you know, there was no range there because the place is too small, and it was just us. It was just a 12-man team, and we were 100 miles behind enemy lines. Okay, and it was just us by ourselves. So we had to make a range. We even made a range, and went out there and in practice, But these guys, they can't shoot. Like the latest incident was the woman who was unfortunately got her ticket punched in the vehicle. You know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
These guys
I know
can't,
exactly what you're talking about.
Right. These guys can't even there's no way I would have taken that shot. I would not have done that. You know what I mean? And that guy,
or even going before it. I mean, the fact that he got in front of the vehicle. Like I talked to so many cops after the event, and you had this one guy.
None of them told you get in front of the car.
Yeah.
No one's trained like that. No one is trained that way. Every time you get trained, they tell you do not get in front of a vehicle. You don't, especially when he had a cell phone out, and he's videotaping the whole thing, and he got the license plate on the video. Now, if that's me personally, that's one of the things that I'm going to do. He was correct with that. I'm going to pull up my phone or a recording device or a camera, and I'm going to take a picture of the license plate, right? And I'm going to sit off to the side of the vehicle. And if she pulls off to get away, fine, go. I'll see you in a couple hours. Because I'm going to show up to your house because I have your license plate. I have your information. I'm just going to show up and take you in then. This doesn't have to be a gunfight. This doesn't have to be a big to-do. And plus, there's too many people in the public. He shoots the driver of a moving vehicle. A moving vehicle. All those people around there could have been hit by that vehicle because now there's no one to control the vehicle.
That person, it could have been worse than it was.
Absolutely. you endanger the entire, not only yourself, but your partner, the public. Now, let's take that same situation and let's say a couple of little girls were walking across the street at the same time, but his back was turned to them because he's focused on the lady and he draws his weapon, takes a shot, takes out the driver. The car cannot be controlled anymore because no one's controlling it. And that thing just goes wherever. It could have it crashed into someone else's house. It could have crashed into some pedestrians, kids. That's why you don't do that. Even in the military, you don't do that. Mm-hmm. Even in Afghanistan or Iraq, wherever you are, that's something you're trained not to do. So people are sitting in defense of him. I'm like, okay, look, man, he could have just got out of the way.
See,
you know what I mean?
He could. You said. You said about Benghazi 13 hours. I had a privilege, and you might get a little judgment on this one. I actually met Chris Tonto in person in 2016. I have the picture up right to show you guys. I'm going to share my screen right now, actually. And I actually end up having a conversation with Chris Tonto. And he literally said to me, when that night, the shit was changing so fast, they had to think on their feet. Every time they got another wave, something different was happening. They had to think. So I just wanted to bring that up because I know you were saying that a minute ago. And this is the picture when I met Chris Tonto in 2016, by the way.
Nice. Yeah, that's true. You do have to think on your feet, but but the training, you do it so much. It's like I said, it's like lifting weights, repetition.
But again, there's still an elite club. Like I said, less than 1% is benching. Less than 1% is benching 315.
That's true.
You were Green Beret, right?
Yeah.
Green Beret. So that's like you got your elite special forces, you got your Rangers, you got your Green Berets. So I'm saying even within the branch that is trained for wartime situation, you're in an elite club.
That's true.
And so my thing is, again, for these local law enforcement agencies, you saw the standards. Again, when the Bundys, when they were there with all their trucks and guns, they was like, look, because the cop there is like, I just want to get home to my family here,
That's how most people are. Like,
right. But these guys are like, again, they're saying to the death that they're willing to go out for their beliefs, whatever they may be.
Right. Until the bullets start flying and they start losing. See, here's the thing. You can say that there are some people who even say that once the bullets start flying, Mr. Bennett. And here's the last point because I do have to shove off now.
Appreciate you,
no problem.
Yeah.
But the key to take away from what I'm saying is the bullets might fly, they might hold on to it. But once the dying starts, that group you got, it's gonna tear itself apart. Once your guys start dying, that's when people, oh crap, okay, that's when that happens. Mm-hmm. No one's sure of anything anymore, and then people are going to turn on to one another. It happens so much. Mm. It's like that's what I mean by this whole. A lot of this is mental. That's why I understand the training in the Army now. Not now, but even then. Like once you're done, you get out of the training, you understand the mental portion of it, and people don't take that into account. You really do have to. It really is mental, and you really do have to push forward through the pain and whatever's going on because a lot of that training. Past basic training, is mental, and they want you to be solid mentally so where you don't give up in the heat of battle, you know, and that's why the selection courses are the way they are. The Q course is the way it is. Ranger, I think they call it RIP now.
I think it was called RAST. It was called RAST.
Yeah, exactly. That's why that is an ass kicker. Like it really, like that really is, man. Like that'll teach you who you are. Like I mean, but the key is to not give up and to keep going forward. If you can do that, you can make it through the Ranger selection. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Green Berets, a little different. You still have to do what they. You still have to.
You gotta go through selection first.
You still have to push through. You know what I'm saying? But there's a lot of mental things and thought experiments and puzzles and. It's all to show them who you are as a person. You know what I mean? And it's brilliantly done. It really is. It's brilliant. I mean, but that's my thing. Once the dying starts, they're going to tear themselves apart.
Right.
I
Well,
think
one
that's
thing
why
in the
they're
documentary that we saw was the group, I guess the 3%ers. Apparently, there's a lot of splinter groups and factions even within the 3%ers. Like the guy who was who was featured in the documentary, he had like 10 different split offs. So I don't even know what the state of those guys are.
And
but
how,
I say,
how organized can you be that in that way?
You cannot.
You can't.
I'm not saying necessarily
Exactly.
organized, but if there's an underlying philosophy or like I said, the reason why a lot of these groups exist, the exceptions included, if it's white nationalism or whatever that ideology is, when stuff goes down, it's like they're going to unite it at a certain point in time.
And they're not. You can't be united if you're splintered off 10 different ways.
That's true.
You have one ideology, but it's in a different form. 10 different forms of the same ideology. That ideology is going to collapse on itself. You know what I mean?
That's what I was saying earlier, Mandra, if you heard what I said, was you might have one good group, and then the other 10 could be bad.
Exactly. You're exactly. I heard that, and you were exactly right.
Yeah.
I was over here nodding my head when I listened to it. Yeah, I was like, yep.
Hey, I might be a white civilian boy, but I know my shit.
I'll stop.
I
I thought you said you weren't white.
Greek. All right, Greek.
You see how he jumps the fence. Oh, I'm not white. I'm Greek. And then you see how that privilege is.
I'm more white than you.
You see that privilege. You see that privilege he's got. He's got that card. He can just pass anytime he wants to, man. But
Yeah.
all right, bro. Hey,
I'm more white than Peter is.
Well, you got a point there, dude.
Yeah, I'm a ghost compared to him.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, several shades. Thanks a lot, Mandrell. You have a good one. I'll catch up to you, especially when the boxing. I need your input on our guy from Newark. He's fighting
Shakur Stevens,
Shakur and Teofimo. So we got to do a preview of that coming up soon. So I'll be definitely looking for you there.
All right, thanks.
You got it, bro. Have a good night.
Later.
What's good, Anton? Jersey stand up.
What's good? What's going on, Pete?
Yes.
As always,
Yes.
what's going on, Craig? Thanks for that extra info that you sent me in the chat as well. I mean, I've looked at some of this stuff, and they only gave me like that number of parties that are in the House of Commons. They said there was a lot more, but those are the ones that they listed for me.
But there's one more. It's called UKIP.
Okay.
Nick something. I can't remember his surname.
Now, is that kind of new? Because again, like I said, I started watching C-SPAN in my teens, and it used to be like you had like the two dominant parties. It was like the Labor and the Liberal,
Tory. Because the Tory was
and it seemed like and it seemed like now what you have all these other groups that just kind of splintered off from the main two groups.
To be honest, there's only three, Paul. There's actually only three: Labour, Tories, which are conservatives. And you've got Reform. The other three are literally on backbench. Yeah. Because Reform's getting most of the actual hits because no one wants Labour in power anymore. Literally, it's Conservatives and Labour have just messed up this country in the last 40 years, to be honest with you. Literally. Reform, they're useless as well because they've got a monster of a guy who's actually running the place, so which is Nigel Farage. He's an absolute monster. I don't really want to. I'm not voting for any of them. I've never voted in my life. I never will.
Really?
I've never ever voted in my life. I refuse to vote in my country because they've never come up any good. Keir Starmer, you've got a thing called a manifesto. Yeah. Everything that he said in his manifesto didn't do. Right. He U-turned on every decision that he's ever made. He's had 13 of them. Yeah. First one was he stopped a winter fuel money for the elderly pensioner. Yeah.
Okay.
You turned on that, and then you turned on it again. The recent one was the digital ID. He did a U-turn on that, but he's trying to sneak it back in. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's Keir Starmer is the worst prime minister in the history of the world, and I'm not kidding you.
God damn.
Even Truss was there. Truss was there for like 2 days or something like that. It's just
I heard stories about him.
Yeah,
that was
for you. Right. There was two Ukrainian boys, right? Rent boys, as we call them, right? They actually set fire to his old house.
Wow.
Wow.
Because he wouldn't pay them. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
They actually
crazy.
set fire to his house, and they tried to cover it up. Keir Starmer, in his first year, the first few months of his tenure, you heard of the Southport murders, the 3 little girls. At the end of the year, he was actually Axel Rudick Banana. His father was Keir Starmer's. What do you call it? Keir Starmer was actually his lawyer to stop him from being deported from the country.
His advocate.
Pardon?
I think you mean by his advocate. Is that what you were looking for? Okay.
Yeah. He stopped him from being deported.
Wow.
And, literally, he didn't want any of that being brought up.
Huh. Wow.
This guy, Axel, he was found with ricin in his room and a manual for the Al Qaeda manual, whatever it's called, for terrorism, how to actually make ricin and that sort of thing.
Wow.
In his bedroom.
Wow.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. So getting on it. So what's on your mind? First of all, welcome to the show. Always a pleasure to have you on. And whatever's on your mind. I know we're talking about this subject here, but I know we've talked about all types of subjects over the last few weeks. And, so again, we'd like to give people an opportunity if you want to go back and rehash or revisit something. That's why we tell people take notes when you're watching the show so you can kind of come back to it. But yeah, what's on your mind? What do you want to share?
So I remember you were mentioning upstate New York and the number of groups that are up there flying the Confederate flag. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised in any bit. I remember there was a story in, I think somewhere in New England. I'm trying to remember if it was Vermont or New Hampshire, where you started to see some supremacist groups literally try to take over certain areas of those particular states too.
Right.
So this has been going on for a long time. Yeah. So I'm not surprised. Like a lot of people trying to figure out like this has been going on for the last 15, 20 years. Like, nope. And even though a lot of these groups did start up when Barack Obama won his election, became president-elect, and that is true. A lot of the rhetoric, and I posted it in the chat. I posted it in the chat. A lot of this rhetoric and this thought process and this idealism all started April 9th, 1865, when Robert E. Lee surrendered to Ulysses S. Grant at Appomattox Courthouse, basically which basically led to the end of the Civil War. Right. And people forget that Robert E. Lee, Jefferson Davis, Stonewall Jackson, Braxton Bragg, and a lot of other individuals who were doing things in support to the Confederacy were never held accountable. Right. And that's where it all started. And I know Peter was saying something about a lot of these statues. A lot of those statues for a lot of these Confederate generals, and a lot of these Confederate leaders, later, they were in they all came up back in the late 50s, early 60s as a way to basically tell the government they were not ending segregation. They want to stick with it no matter what. I think there were some groups like, I think the sons and daughters, like the sons or the daughters of the Confederacy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. They were like pushing this as well. I remember seeing a speech by George Wallace, and he was the governor of Alabama at the time. Yep. And I remember he said it. He said, segregation now, segregation forever, segregation always. And he was that strong about it. And that is how the Democrats literally lost the South, because you had all these Dixiecrats, a lot of those Southern Democrats that decided to change parties and start, going along with the GOP. And, it
actually took place, I think, earlier. That was, you got to go back to Truman in 48 on his campaign, because he was the first president to put civil rights on the platform. That started the first mass exodus of Democrats, or as you said, the Dixiecrats out of the Democratic Party, when he put that on the platform. When he decided in 48, he also integrated the military in 48. And that also led to an exodus. I'm not saying that what happened, what happened with Wallace and those guys didn't happen later, but that first mass exodus where you had those people split off, it was at the convention of 48 when those guys left.
See, I don't 100% disagree with what you guys saying. I agree 100% actually. What I'm saying is that should be a symbol of where we came from to saying, hey, we don't need to go back to that again.
I see what you mean, Peter. I do see what you mean. It should be a reminder to a lot of us. These are the things that happen in our country, in our country's history, and this needs to be a reminder to let us know we should never go back down that road. So I understand what you mean by that.
Yeah.
But the problem is, you're not going to find a lot of stuff in these textbooks. You're not going to find a lot of these things being taught in schools, especially in the South, especially down there. They still refer to the Civil War as the War of Northern Aggression. Like a lot of that attitude and mindset was allowed to build and grow and literally take root after the Civil War ended. Because when you have Reconstruction going on, what came out of Reconstruction? The Ku Klux Klan.
Yeah.
So every time you try to put something out there in order for people to understand and know what's going on and what happened, you have this very strong counter basically saying, oh no, we shouldn't talk about that. Oh, that was in the past.
Well, it's interesting. Right. Well, you just had this comment that came up. So many, too many black men just love to, I guess, cry about the past forever. We're not the ones crying about it. The fact that these groups exist, they're the ones that are crying about the past.
Yeah.
And those groups oftentimes we take as being a threat to us in the present. So if those groups didn't exist, we may not talk about it as much. But the conversation came up tonight talking about these militias. And what oftentimes is behind these militia groups is the grievance that happened in the past. So again, don't blame us for calling out how a lot of these groups got started and what some of the ideology and philosophy is. We didn't start that. And so I just find it interesting that, again, as soon as we get into it, you have that kind of mindset that wants to come up in the in the conversation. But again,
you have what he's saying 100% because you guys are not crying or anything, and I'm talking about as a Greek American myself. So
see, now he's Greek again. You see that? You see that? You see that? You see how he code switches like that?
Reached your limit on talking.
But no, seriously. Let's take it serious for a second here. They're not crying. We're just having a civil conversation between four respectful men. You can't have these conversations, then we're just going to repeat the history over and over and over. So why not talk about it? And I am agreeing with what they're saying. And believe it or not, as somebody who grew up in New York, it affected myself too. Because I was, and like Paul knows, he's been watching this for a while, I was the black sheep in the area. I was the only Greek in my school. If I didn't get picked on, understatement. I got picked on in every single shape, way, or form. So them having this conversation, I think they have the right to have that conversation. And I give them the floor anytime to have that conversation.
And I feel the reason why the status quo don't want to address these issues and talk about it is because they're afraid what may happen if someone in their family knew that a particular father or grandfather or uncle or great uncle or someone was involved in these groups. I think that's what they're afraid of. They're afraid that their dirty laundry with a family member that passed away 80 years ago that was associated with it would come out, because a lot of these individuals at that time, back then, always thought the long game, like, I'll be damned if I got to deal with this, but I'm going to make sure my descendants don't. And that's what it is. Mm-hmm. It's always been the long game, plain and simple, because that's all they know. Because when you have this demographic that's so used to being the gatekeepers, the decision makers, and the policyholders, that's all they know. Plain and simple. That's all they know. They don't know anything else. And the one thing, if you think about it, a lot of those individuals who took part in a lot of the stuff and basically co-signed a lot of stuff, they were never held accountable. Mm-hmm. Plain and simple. None of them were ever held accountable. And we wonder why.
Yeah. Hey, Anton, let me ask you, because I know you're former military. What is your view on gun rights in general? Obviously, we live in a very liberal state with pretty stringent gun laws. What's your view overall, having that background and use of firearms? What do you typically stand on the issue?
I've always felt like the problem in our country is we have too many laws. And then you got states that want to supersede the federal laws just to say, hey, look what we're doing. We're tough on guns. And it doesn't work. You know, I remember I was in the Guard after September 11th, and I was doing security at Newark Airport. And even though every person that was on my group, all of us were qualified with our weapons and everything else, they put selector locks on our rifles because in the state of New Jersey, you're not allowed to have an assault weapon.
Right. Wow.
Even though we know how to use our weapons, even though we're trained and we know how to do everything that's associated with it, they put selector locks on our rifles because we're not allowed to have assault weapons in the state of New Jersey. And I remember one of the people, the higher up, said, listen, if things happen, break them off and we'll deal with the politics later. And that's always been the problem, because when you hear these debates, you always say, oh, Virginia needs to get tougher. Florida needs to get tougher. Texas needs to get tougher. Arizona needs to get tougher. Okay. If those states need to get tougher, then New Jersey, New York, and Connecticut need to dial it back. You have to have a balance. And that's has always been the problem. The only balance and the only thing that's universal with firearm laws in the United States is you have to be 18 and you can't be a felon. And that's my wife in the background now.
Nice.
So those are the only things that's the only things that are universal.
I disagree. People kill people.
But you guys are pretty lucky because you guys are allowed.
The only country outside the United States with free access to guns.
Have her she can put the headset on. Bring her on. Bring her on.
Hey, they want you to come on camera now.
I'm busy doing something.
I didn't hear a thing you said then. I'm sorry. I
actually agree on what you're saying, but I'm going to add a little bit to it. And I have said this before. I personally don't believe gun laws work in general. So they actually just moved the law from 18 to 21 now. That's the only thing that changed.
Right.
So
yeah, and I heard that was the one thing a lot of people agreed with is raising the age of purchasing a firearm.
I was fine with the age raising to 21. Because a PA was 18 for a rifle because a lot of people hunt around here.
Right.
I disagree.
And in 21
that
for
that with age comes maturity, and that's simply not true.
Sweetheart, you want to come on camera?
No.
You make valid points, sweetheart. You make valid points, and they actually want to hear what you have to say.
100%.
Come up.
That assumes that with age comes maturity, and that's not always the case.
Fellas, say hello to my wife, Sophia. Sophia, say hello to the fellas.
Hello, Sophia. Welcome on to the gray area. Good to have you on.
Age comes maturity, and we've seen so many Proud Boys who are instantly the new ICE, where it shows that's simply not true. Actually, when it comes to guns, with age comes less maturity, because they're the ones to sit there and argue that it's their constitutional right to have weapons that kill people. So much so that they'll kill you to keep it.
Right.
Make that make sense.
Thanks for being a part of it.
Say thank you.
I'm already seeing another show for you, by the way. You and your wife debate politics or policy or whatever.
Oh, go look for that one.
You guys.
We've had these we've had some heated debates. We've had some discussions, and this one right here, when it comes to the Second Amendment, this has always been the most passionate one. And she's never been a fan of firearms. Me, I was in the service. I've shot a significant amount of stuff. So my attitude actually in the beginning was almost similar to hers. Then when I joined the military, then when I joined the Army and I started shooting, my attitude totally changed. And I think and to me, I think we love to say, oh, well, owning the firearms are right. Yeah, but people need to learn to take responsibility when it comes to having that right.
I agree with 100%.
And that is the problem.
Yeah.
And that has always been the problem. People don't want to take the responsibility when it comes to having that fundamental right of, exercising their right to the Second Amendment. Okay, sure. But guess what? Do you know how to fire it? Do you know how to assemble it? Do you know how to disassemble it? Do you know how to clean it? Do you know how to do any of these things other than the fact when you first bought it? 99% of the time, no. And I got be honest, I haven't fired an M16, M4 in quite some time, but I guarantee you, I probably still know how to take it apart blindfolded.
Right. So this is the thing that always got me. We had a discussion last year on guns and gun violence. And this is the thing that always got me, though. If you look at this map here, this is from U.S. News and World Report, and there's several similar maps like it. That it's in the states where there is the least amount of gun law, seems to be the largest amount of gun violence. Whereas if you look in the Northeast, where we're at, Jersey, New York, Connecticut, as much as you may hear about the statistics as far as what's going on, you don't have as much. So I don't know what the balance is. So when you're saying, okay, well, maybe New Jersey, New York needs to take it down, maybe the South needs to bring it up. I don't know where that balance would be. But
that's something they have to do. That's something they have to figure out.
Yeah. And then the other thing that got me was,
like I said to you guys before, I don't think gun laws work because let's say a man and a wife, all right, are together. Like you, Paul, for example, your wife. And for some reason you were arrested as a felony, right? And you can't own it. Nobody says your wife can't own it. Nobody, and the law doesn't say, hey, because your wife owns a gun, you cannot touch that gun. Who's going to stop you in your home touching that gun? So tell me how the gun law is going to work then. And I had this whole argument with David in the background one day saying, oh, all this stuff is, we need stricter laws. And I looked at him like, then you're telling people who hunt for a living, hunt for food on the tables, they can't feed their families. I'll find a different way. Then maybe you should get a license to be an IT. That's when he got pissed off about it. And he got upset. I don't need a license. And like same thing with a vehicle. You need a license to operate that. Okay. But technically,
But also, Peter, remember, driving's not just a right, it's also a privilege.
That's where I was going with this. I also think the Second Amendment right is a privilege.
Reverse that. A privilege, period. Not a right.
Yeah.
Only states can do that, not the federal government.
Unless you're a sovereign citizen, those guys say that it's a right. So, driving's a right.
Law. They are not allowed to say that anymore.
I don't know. I got on a binge. I was watching all these sovereign citizen videos. And what
I've seen a few of them. My wife showed me a few of them. And we're looking at them like, seriously? Like, really?
Yeah, but they're driving around like even they have like the license plates. They're ordering these license plates from somebody and saying something like I'm sovereign, this or that or whatever. When the cop stops them, they don't give them a driver's license. They give them some world ID or some universal ID or something like that. It's like all these things that they're doing.
And what happens in the end? They're always end up in
well, the sad part about it is like they take up so many resources of the system. I think some guys got off simply because it's like because you as a prosecutor, you're like, do you really want to spend taxpayer money? Because, again, you do have a right to a trial by jury, whatever, and these cases just get kicked down the road 60, 90, 120 days before there's a resolution when the fine was only like $150 because you didn't have your registration ones have been new. But the amount of money that you're going to pay in trying to prosecute some of these people is many times that. So I think a lot of people just say, just let them go. They're nuts.
Also, Mr. Bennett, the problem with some of these individuals is they're doing all this nonsense just to beat a $35-$40 ticket.
That's what I'm saying.
Like
it's almost like the like I said the ideology of it. It's not so much the money or what have you. It's like these people are so died true believers of whatever this principle is that they're willing to go to jail for it, lose their jobs over it, take misdemeanors and turn them into felonies, certainly when they resist law enforcement. I'm like, over what? So I just think that, again, the ideologues, regardless of what side of the aisle that you're on or what your persuasion or what have you, when you get into that space, it's almost like there's no coming back from it. The people who were in that in those videos, like I don't know how many of those guys are like could you interview somebody who was like, yeah, I was a part of that at one point and then I got out of it and I'm totally against those groups. I don't know what that mindset is, but everybody in there, you could tell, I don't know, it's the glassy-eyed syndrome or whatever, but these guys are like there when even Mandrell said until the bullets start flying. I don't know about that, because some of that stuff is just it's just a different world or a worldview that they're thinking. But again, we've seen how that's happened in the past.
Perfect example: Branch Davidian in Waco, Texas, David Koresh, and what happened with the ATF. I mean, that was a standoff that lasted well over, I think it was like 47 days, I think.
Yeah.
Before the compound was burned down. And I think it was around between 9 and 11 ATF agents lost their lives in the beginning when the standoff took place. And I remember there was jokes within the background in law enforcement and those government agencies that, the ATF was kind of like, you couldn't come out and say you were part of the ATF. They were kind of looked at as the redhead stepchild at that time. And it wasn't until...
Okay, it's not just at that time. The ATF completely bungled that.
I know that. I'm aware of that.
So it's not like the redhead stepchild. How can they do something terribly wrong, complete missteps, and they get upset when they're taken to task for it?
But then guess how they clean their reputation up?
I'm sorry. When did they clean their reputation up?
The bombing of Centennial Park in the Olympics.
I disagree with that.
No, it actually helped because the people that actually discovered that it wasn't Richard Jewell and it was a particular individual, and I'm not going to say the person's name. If I remember who the person's name is, I think it was, well, we're not going to go there. FBI was ready to take over the investigation and take everything up to Quantico. But the ATF's headquarters, I think, if I remember, is still in Atlanta. And they're like, well, we have the equipment here. And they literally went back and forth to try to get this done. And then once the ATF...
I don't just, okay. It's sensitive to us because, an innocent man was accused. And
right.
The ATF's actions, it was shown that he was innocent. But when you compare one, the lives lost in Waco compared to Atlanta, one good deed doesn't.
A lot of these agencies have egos.
One good deed, one good act does not erase so many missteps.
Hang on, guys. Miss Sophia.
Sophia.
Coming to YouTube, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay.
Anton and Sophia. All right. I'm telling you, you guys will be up to 10K subscribers just like that. I love this.
He wants us to start a show together.
I love this energy that you guys have together. The dynamic here.
Yeah, but just.
I mean, you got political. Remember who was that? Those political consultants that used to go on CNN all the time. They got
James
the older guy, Carville and his wife, Madeline something or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean they were icons. I mean, you guys could be the new Carville and Madeline.
I don't know how he married. I could do it.
That's what I'm saying. It's if they could do it and still love each other, you guys can certainly do it. So I certainly vote for. I know you're trying to launch the hockey channel and all that kind of stuff, but I'm telling you, this man. I'm telling you,
I could see you how you stay together. How do you get with somebody?
So are you trying to produce a show like
I'm not
shows
that
almost?
first date. Like how do they get?
Say again.
Imagine that first date. How do they get the conversation? They must ban politics in their house.
And probably with them, I mean, because they've been married for a long time, so it could have been, you can get away with being center left and center right, or centrist in some way, and you kind of just as time goes on, your views change. People change. It just as a person, right? Typically. You get a little bit more conservative as you get older. Once you start having a family and have a house and things like that, at least a financial or physical conservative in that time. So it might have started out like that they were kind of, in that space, and then it just kind of grew differently. But again, I love the fact that you can be in the same household when you got people literally split up over politics, especially in the last few years.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, if you can survive that, I think, they were an object lesson in how you can still have debates, how you can still lobby for different political parties.
Right.
and still come home, still have a family, still have love and respect for one another.
Exactly.
I think we need more of that.
Definitely.
In this country for sure.
I think what also happened when after the investigation with the ATF and everything got done, they basically became. They still use ATF, but their official moniker is ATFE, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Because of that, and also one of the things that, and it sucks that it has to take tragedy in order for people to wake up. I remember looking at the final report from the September 11th Commission, and one of the biggest issues that they made note of is the battle of the badges. Like different agencies were arguing with us. Like FBI was doing one thing, CIA, ATF, U.S. Marshals, Secret Service. Everybody was doing their own thing.
And that's a problem too, especially when you talk about these organizations.
Right.
I mean, if the levels of government and who's supposed to be doing what, if they're disjointed, then how are you going to go against a unified body, assuming that they're unified?
So basically, they all were told, you all were guilty for screwing the wrong pooch. All y'all got caught with your hands in the cookie jar. Y'all made this sandwich. Y'all eating it.
The biggest problem is every law enforcement organization
Except that's not exactly
talking
true.
to each other. And
now they are.
They make shit sandwiches.
Now they are. How long did it fucking take to do that shit?
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's right, Peter. It had to take that for them to realize, okay, because they all got egos. All these government agencies have egos. And it got to the point, this was a gut check. And basically, the commission was like, this is a gut check. Y'all need to get it together. Plain and simple. And now, 20 plus years later, if you notice, they're working with each other like it's no big deal. No issues, no problems, no egos whatsoever. I remember one movie where you saw something similar to that, and I don't know if you guys remember the movie. It was called The Siege.
Yeah.
I remember it actually. Yeah.
Denzel Washington, Annette Bening, Tony Shalhoub, Bruce Willis.
Yep.
Each of them represented a different aspect of the government.
That's right.
And that was the best way to describe what went on between certain agencies, and also stuff that went on between certain agencies and the military.
You're saying, is that still the case now, or did things kind of get better after you talk about Waco? Did it happen before or after 9/11?
That was before. That was in 93. Waco was in 93. And then, unfortunately, Oklahoma City was 2 years later.
2 years, right. Yep.
And what a lot of people did not know also at the time, and I remember my drill sergeants told me this because I went to basic training that following summer in 96. And I'm trying to be mindful in saying this, but my drill sergeant said, Uncle Sam, they make the best ones. And they said, Timothy McVeigh, he was a decorated Army vet. He was in the infantry. He was a sapper, which means he did demolition and explosives. Eric Rudolph, Green Beret. Charles Whitman, when you look at the situation that happened at the University of Texas, served in the Marine Corps. You know, and when I remember my own instructors were telling us this, you feel a little like, whoa, really? But then when you look it up, you see what they mean by that. I mean, Congress literally.
You didn't mention Lee Harvey Oswald, but
right?
Or do you believe that conspiracy?
You know what? I have a question.
I tried not to get into it, but he also served.
I thought you were going down.
He served in the Marine Corps as well. He was in the Marine Corps, and the thing most people didn't realize, the philosophy of the Marine Corps, and they still believe in this philosophy. Every Marine is a rifleman.
Yes.
Every Marine needs to know how to shoot. It don't matter what your job status or your MOS is. If you're a Marine, you're gonna know how to shoot. Plain and simple.
Question, my man, as a military person yourself, and I've been having an argument for years. I felt all these people who retired from the military, they're looking jobs. We have a lot of homeless veterans out there. Let's be straight up here. So a lot of school shootings, we could use these veterans to be security at schools. You know, because now the world we're living in, I feel like if I had kids, I'll be like sleeping better at night knowing my kid's protected by a military person with a firearm in school. That's my opinion. Let me get your thoughts on that.
No, I see your point in that, because people don't realize how a firearm can be the perfect diversion. Like when you see someone holding that weapon, you have to automatically assume that person knows how to use it. plain and simple. It's the perfect diversion. It's the perfect way to basically saying, do not tempt me. Do not force me to do my job.
Yeah.
And I totally agree. I totally agree with you, Peter, because I know some places it varies. They do have security guards walking through the halls and everything else. Some cities do have a separate division of the police department that does everything within the school, within the public schools, so on and so forth. As for arming them, I don't have a problem with arming them, but some people are going to feel uncomfortable with it. So that's always going to be the issue as well. And of course,
for me, but it's the same thing as a police officer. Like, are you ready for an instantaneous event? Like, as a soldier, you're trained. Like, if a bomb goes off or you hear fire going, there's like a switch that goes on in your mind and you react to that. I'm saying most law enforcement isn't necessarily prepared for that. And as we saw with Uvalde and some of these other locations or whatnot, there's also a tepidness about stepping into a situation when you know there's an armed shooter. To me, it's a totally different mindset that you're trained for. So I'm certainly for using military personnel, but I don't even know if I would want a former police officer in that role, especially if you're not used to live situations where you hear shots fired, boom, there's like a switch that goes on and you go immediately into action. I think a soldier would be more apt to be able to handle that.
That's true, and that's something. And it's just going to be the dynamics of how do you screen them, who selects them, who do they fall under as well. Should they not be armed, the whole nine? I mean, trust me, I know a lot of cops who heard about what happened in Uvalde, and they were angry. It's still to this day are angry that the cops didn't go in and do something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, my wife, one of her relatives is retired, decorated cop here in Jersey. He was not happy. Some of my friends I grew up with, some who are still in law enforcement, angry. Like, I remember going on social media and just hearing the anger and the frustration from a lot of police officers. And it didn't matter what side of the aisle you fell on. A lot of them were angry, saying, why didn't they do something?
Mm-hmm.
That's what our job is to do, to protect and serve. You're supposed to go in there. So what? There's a lot of heat. That's what you're trained to do. And even one of our friends, Trey, who's been up here on the network at times, he was I don't remember. I mean, if he voiced it, but I know for a fact he was angry about it too.
Yeah.
Because
I would say it takes a unique person to run towards a fire versus away from it, and that's what you guys, military and police officers train is to run towards the gunfire, not away.
I don't know about the police officers. I don't know if I'll put those guys in the same.
That can serve. That's what that comes down to it, Paul.
I know, but it doesn't matter what the logo, the phrase is. Are you in regular readiness training for those situations? How many local law enforcement, state police in New Jersey or PA, whatever? How often, even if you've been trained, how often are you in that kind of protocol? Just like you were saying, just like what Manjo was saying earlier, how you get better shooting, like repetition. Is the repetition there to support an action like that, which happens every year? There's like 100 mass shootings in this country every year or something like that.
Unfortunately.
So it's not like this stuff isn't happening. But again, how many police departments, taking military out of it, are ready and prepared for that kind of action? Will you go to training? Cops I talk to, they go to the gun range, and that's about it. But live situations, they're teaching classes in a classroom, like at a college or whatever. Procedures and things like that to pass tests. But are you being tested in the field where you got rounds being fired and you got to hear that over and over again? Because a lot of these students, it's not just one at a time. It's like, pat. I mean, it's like rapid. It's like you got to move with the quickness here. So until that happens for law enforcement, that's why I don't have a lot of trust in the current process when it comes to readiness for that kind of action.
To me, I feel like it should take more than just the fact that the person has a degree. There has to be something that you have to find in that individual if he or she wants to go into law enforcement. Now, being in the military does help in many aspects, But what about those who never did time in the military? Do they have what it takes? And I think also what it is, a lot of departments, are they willing to redo their whole entire screening process for candidates? And what do you do? What do you look for? What do you exclude? And now it's okay. What's going to be the basis? What's going to be the standard? And we all know certain locations have different standards and expectations, plain and simple. And that's always going to be the challenge as well. Such as, I mean, LA, like the city of Los Angeles may have one SOP and how they screen their police officers. And it's totally different how it is in a city like New York, which has one of the largest police, which is basically by far the largest police department in the country.
Like I said earlier, my cousin is a retired NYPD detective. So he even said he went through the police academy. He didn't get a degree. He went through the police academy. And
Right.
I remember him talking to a rookie. And he said, that degree you got is toilet paper. It doesn't mean shit out there. So you need to earn your stripes. And I agree with that.
No, I've heard that too. I've heard that from people I know who are currently cops as well. But now when you have certain agencies now look for those with college degrees, it excludes a significant number of your pool of candidates as well, because you do have some individuals who don't have the degree, but yet they have what it takes to do the job. But because they don't have that sheepskin, they're automatically excluded.
See, again, I'll go back to this again. Like, the best cops my cousin worked with was cops who were, again, ex-military or retired military, whatever you want to call it, veterans. Those are the best cops usually on the street because they know how to react, when not to react, how to react, not to react. If this is second stage, it's like walking. It's just like walking. So you pulling your firearm, it should be just like walking. And, you don't pull it out because somebody has flinched at you or whatever. And I have often anything. My cousin didn't. He had write so many reports over somebody using his firearm by accident, misfires, and killing somebody, deleting somebody by accident. And it happens more often than you think.
And ironically, also, the one thing that most people don't realize, the officers that are often doing that are the ones that don't have that much time on the job. You rarely hear about a police officer who has over 20 plus years of experience and he or she accidentally pull their firearm out for the wrong reason.
Yeah.
And that's why I agree with, them being like, I personally, you want a degree? Fine. Give them a degree. But there should be also at least one couple years in the military. You know what I was trying to say.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
but just in regards to training, I mean, like, obviously we got a current situation with ICE. Now, for what I heard, I understand, I'm sorry, your wife.
That's my wife on the phone.
I'm sorry. You repeat your point.
They don't do it because of lack of experience.
Say again.
They don't do it because of lack of experience. Experienced officers, police officers, think about plantation system. They're nothing but overseers. They're not there to protect the law. They're there to keep order. A more experienced officer is more likely to use force, not less.
I personally disagree.
Peter disagrees with you.
Hey, you're more than welcome to join us on our next call-in show. So again, in 4 weeks. In 4 weeks, we're going to have another call-in show. You're more than welcome to come up, and hopefully we can have you on cam.
But you need to be included in this, sweetheart.
But again, we appreciate you being part of the.
I'll try and drag the wife in as well.
The discussion, yeah, absolutely. We'll be like the newlywed game. We'll have all the couples on the show, and Sparta, he'll be the host of the. I'll try to get my wife on also. We'll do.
Good luck with that one.
We'll do that the newlywed ways. I can get her on. She's been on. She's been on shows before. It's just she's can't. But depending if the topic is good, she'll participate. But we're coming
on camera. To be honest with you.
Yeah, she's been on. She's been on. We've been on a couple of shows, but we're gonna try to land this plane. The only thing I would say, certainly going into final thoughts, is again we all know about the situations with ICE recently, and we talk about all this concept of training. And I think these guys are probably getting less. In fact, what I was hearing was they're actually trying to fast track the process even more. I think to 6 weeks before they guys out. So we're talking about the type of training that current law enforcement needs in these situations. And you're going to be putting guys out there, and again, like Mandrell was saying earlier, I talked to cops afterwards who their superiors had meetings with them, said, if this ever happens, you are done as a police officer. Everything in terms of how that was handled was just off. And so again, department heads are being reminding their officers that do not let this happen. There's a step to procedures how this is being done. But again, what can you expect out of an ICE officer who's only been on the job for 6 weeks? Assuming if they go to that fast track to get more of these guys on the streets. So again, but you're giving these guys lethal force on the streets, and we're seeing what's happening with people who are even American citizens being detained. And so again, I think I think a lot of these things now it's going to be interesting if some of these militia gets caught up with ICE. Now that would be a very interesting scenario, and we'll see if the attitudes and opinions would change then, since these guys are anti-imperialist or anti, I forget the word I'm looking for, but certainly, they hate government intervention and whatnot. Let one of their guys get picked up accidentally, and I'd like to see what happens then if their tune changes. But certainly just want to go around the room, get final thoughts from everybody as we close out the show. So I'll give it to Craig if you want to start first, and then we'll kind of go to Anton, and then Peter and I will close out the show.
No.
Any final thoughts? Are you good? All right. Well, again, as always, you always support us in everything that we do. We appreciate you being part of of the productions that go on. But go ahead, Anton. Any final thoughts that you or your lovely wife like to share before we end the show today?
All right, my final thoughts. This was a very good topic. I'm glad you did this and everything. And my final thoughts is you got people who are doing these jobs, in different law enforcement areas who are doing their jobs. And then you look at the situation, what happened with ICE, and you're asking yourself, how is it these individuals not only are allowed to carry a badge, but how are they allowed to carry a sidearm? And they're so quick on the trigger. I'm not saying what happened to this woman was fair, and there was another individual also that was caught up by ICE as well, but no one has mentioned his name. I think his name was Kevin Porter, I believe. I remember Information Man was talking about him. I think that's his name. I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, I apologize if I put the wrong information out. But it's getting to the point now where these individuals are coming to different parts to going to cities, different parts of the country, and they feel going in by force gives them a pass to do whatever they want. And now the fact that you have American citizens getting caught up in this, just going about their business, now it's making it even worse. There's no way you can justify this.
Actually, I disagree that it's making it worse. Saying that it makes it worse for American citizens implies it's okay to treat immigrants that way.
I never said it did.
And secondly, hey, where are all lives matter people at?
That is true. That is true on that. Because a lot of individuals who were saying white lives matter, all lives matter, they're nowhere to be found.
Oh, no. They're wearing ice masks.
Ah, touche. Touche.
Awesome. Funny, dude. When this whole incident ICE first came out, so I was working in the kitchen, and I was running my kitchen Noma, right? And I go to a guy named Carlos, right?
But they want us to care so much. They want us to be too much used as cannon fodder. A white woman gets shot in the face, and now it's a tragedy.
And the other question, why are these guys not wearing body cameras?
Because they're acting like cowboys. That's what it is. And like I remember saying on I think it was on Flipping Tables, ICE came into existence right around the time after September 11th, because it used to be Immigration and Naturalization. Then you had U.S. Customs, and then you had the Border Patrol. They were all different agencies. After September 11th, when Department of Homeland Security was established, that's when they took Immigration and Customs and put them together. That's how a lot of these agencies that you see now were established. All this was done after September 11th. Because you had Border Protection, and they were just doing that. You had Customs that was just taking care of that. You had Immigration that was just taking care of that. That's now, basically what you did is you pull them all together as one organization. Customs still takes care of what comes in and out from, what still comes in from other countries. Now you have Customs working with Immigration. That's how ICE came into be. because they're immigration and customs enforcement. And then, of course, now you have the CBP, Customs and Border Patrol, because now you're taking customs and you have them working with the Border Patrol as well. So all these agencies all came about after September 11th. And that's how the Department of Homeland Security came about. The U.S. Coast Guard used to be under the Department of Transportation. Now they fall under the Department of Homeland Security. But in the time of war, they fall under the U.S. Navy. Hence why they're nicknamed the Baby Navy. And hence why their rank structure is similar to that of the U.S. Navy.
That I do know.
Ours.
Yeah.
All right, Pete, you want to give yours and we'll close this out?
No, I agree with everything we're saying. I think we need to do a part 2 on this, but a funny story, actually. When I was running in my kitchen, I had a bunch of Latinos one day, and I tell them, I went to one of my workers at Carlos, go get the ice from the outside because our ice machine. Man, these guys scatter like cockroaches. I'm like, holy shit, I can't get you guys to work fast enough. I'm like, God damn.
Wow.
We had a lot of good opinions. I do think we should do a show just on school security later on. I think that's a really good topic to talk about. But I think I want to thank everybody coming up because usually nobody wants to come up. They're too scared to come on camera. But tonight, I pulled one out of my ass, boy. You gotta give me credit on this one.
Hey, yep, kudos. Appreciate it.
Except that,
and also, we want to just as a quick program announcement. So our guy R. Payne, the senior, certainly in the BMU space, he is actually going to be doing a show talking about some of these recent ICE incidences on his show tomorrow night. So tune in to the Black Men Unfiltered Network, Monday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can chill with R. Payne as you go through this. So again, maybe Anton, if you're free, maybe you guys can chop it up. I'll try to certainly chime in.
Because I'm off tomorrow, so I'll try to jump in. I'll be home for that.
For sure.
I'll try to jump on that too, old man.
Will do. Well, again, we want to thank everybody for being a part of this conversation tonight. Again, make sure you hit the like button, both here on the Black Men Unfiltered Network as well as the Sparta HQ Network. Certainly helps all of us. And, again, continue to follow the station for upcoming shows throughout the week. The next time you'll see me on the BMU Network will be on Wednesday, the one-on-one sports show. We'll talk about this NFL divisional weekend. Sorry, Anton, no hockey will probably be covered. But waiting for you to drop your show.
Well,
so,
I'm actually getting things started right now. I got one channel that started. I'm about to start making videos on it and everything else.
There you go. So looking forward to that. So again, for myself, for Anton, for Craig from the UK, and for
this is Sparta!
The Ghost of Sparta, a.k.a. Peter, a.k.a. Panayotis. This is the Gray Area, the Gray and Call-In Show. We'll see you guys on another call-in show in 4 weeks. So for all of us, take care. God bless. We'll see you next time. And we don't have an outro video, so this is going to be a hard end. We'll see you next time. Good night.
Be safe.